Roll call. Bruno, Ian McKenzie, Marchi Pruney, Noah Kenny, Chief Dugay, Interim Chief Dugay, Miss Davy, Miss Miles, Mr. Loggett, Tom Gervais from the ministry. I mentioned Angela already. Mr. Shoemaker will be here temporarily. I just want to start with the territorial acknowledgement. We would like to begin by acknowledging that we are in the Robinson Huron Treaty Territory and that the land on which we are gathered is traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, specifically the Garden River and the Batchewana First Nation, as well as the Métis people. I want to put a motion to move into camera. I need a mover for that, Marchi, and I need a seconder for that. And it's resolved that the board agreed to adjourn the public portion of this meeting and move to the in-camera to discuss confidential personnel matters and litigation matters pursuant to section 44(2) of the Community Safety and Policing Act. All in favor? I call the meeting to order. It's 2:49. We will move from closed matters from closed into open matters arising from in camera. And Lisa, could you read the resolution?
Resolved that the board agreed to adjourn the public portion of the meeting. This was prior to discuss confidential personnel matters and litigation matters pursuant to section 44(2) of the Community Safety and Policing Act.
Okay, thank you. That's number 13. A mover? Marchi, seconder, Ian. It's all with the board. Go ahead, Lisa.
That's what we just did, yeah.
We can,
Now we can move forward, yeah.
good.
Conflicts of interest.
All in favor? Approved. Okay, conflicts of interest declarations.
Mr. Chair, I'll declare on item number 13, hiring of legal counsel.
Okay. Questions and information arising out of the minutes and not otherwise on the agenda. Let's take a moment. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to number 8, adoption of minutes. I need a mover. Ian, seconder. Nuala. Resolves the minutes of April 30th meeting as presented be hereby approved. All in favor? Approved. Motion to accept the agenda, May 28th, 2025. Mover. Merritt. Seconded by Noah. Resolved that the May 28th meeting agenda as presented be hereby approved. All in favor? Approved. Interim Deputy Chief. Communications and report. Information only. Thank you. 10A, in your binder, please.
So financial reports, we'll start off with overtime. Currently for the April, we are at 369,236, which would be less than what we were in 2024. Angela, I think can speak to that if you want at the end of this, so we can certainly speak to our ongoing overtime. For April, overtime for 2025 was $16,217. That's for staff shortages. Some of the staff shortages obviously resulted out of the numbers we've hired haven't hit the road yet. We had some training requirements from the CSPA, which, and then obviously sick time all plays factor some of that as well. Showed $2,000 overage, so that's would be our dispatch center had some overtime calls as well.
Like overtime just is what it is, right, Chief?
Overtime is generated from a number of sources. One is criminal investigation supports, which is the majority of it, which would be our TAC callouts, our K9 callouts, our criminal investigation callouts. Staff shortages, it makes up a very small portion of that, but there is always going to be some of that. When 2 people book off sick, you have to call somebody out to fill the minimums that we require. Overtime is what it is year to year. It's the same amount. And once again, I think when we get to the final, Angela can speak to it a little more clearly than I can. I'm not sure if you want to step in kind of where we are with overtime compared to what the budget would be for this year. That seems to be what's a bit of a point of contention. So when I'm speaking to overtime from 2024, we're about on par, a little less than we were at this point last year, but obviously I'll let Angela speak.
Yeah, overtime is one of the numbers that's been included in the budget for many years. We've increased staffing, we've been asked to decrease the overtime as a result. There's not always a direct correlation, but it's just kind of how we manage the numbers. Our overtime in the budget is very low compared to what we've been spending for the last several years. I would say the last 10 years, we've averaged around the $1 million mark for overtime. So at the end of April, that report that interim chief Dugay just showed you, we've spent 154% of our overtime budget because of that. So we feel for consistency's sake that you'll probably see as we do the 2026 budget, that we'll try to get that number to better reflect what overtime actually is. We manage it as best as we can, like interim chief Dugay said, but it's primarily call driven.
Questions?
Yeah.
Yes, Mike.
So we're 154% over
For overtime.
for overtime
Already. This,
already. What has caused,
so
So our overtime budget for the whole year is only $300,000.
200?
and we're at
it's been
$400,
$200,000.
almost at 400 already. So our budget from 2025 did not reflect accurately what our overtime is year after year after year, because we're almost $1 million year after year after year.
Any other questions?
Well, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
No.
is it sporadic like that? So that, goodness, I'm working and now I've got this big, like thorny case. I'm not gonna clock out. I'm gonna keep working. Is that what we're talking about? Or,
So that is some of
Yeah.
it. Majority is we've got this thorny case. We have to call people in now to manage this weapons call or barricaded person call or drug warrant.
And chief, all overtime is approved by whom?
All overtime is approved by a supervisor. So on a case like we're calling it a tactical team, that might be the incident commander who also would have got called out from home, or maybe a staff sergeant who called the team out originally. And when they end of the call, they submit their overtime to. So a supervisor approves every bit of overtime. Nobody just puts overtime in and gets paid without it being approved. And that's all tracked through our OSL system.
Good. And when somebody is at the end of their shift, and again, this is an operational thing, but it's still, when somebody's at the end of their shift, then they have paperwork. And again, I don't know what they do or what they don't do, okay? And they have things to finish. Does that carry over the next day, or do they stay until they're done?
So we have a requirement to end your reports before the end of your shift unless you have approval by your supervisor. So they would go to the supervisor's staff. I just got this call. I'm still working, finishing up my reports. The staff would say, yes, finish them up, or what's the call? And make a decision, say, go home and come back. But that makes up such a small portion of our overtime. Typically our officers, we have them finish up the call before they go home, because when they get here on the next day, they're back into another call and then you never get back to it. So
So somebody who has put in a 12-hour shift could be here for 15 hours,
potentially, yes. Yeah.
or 14 hours, or 13 hours, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And that, but once again, they aren't doing that on their own. They would go and get permission to stay and finish out that call from their supervisor. Or it might be that barricaded person where they started on day shift. The call comes in at 4 o'clock. Now we need them to stay because they're guarding the back door of a house and we're waiting for our tactical team to resolve the situation. So, but those are operational. Yeah, there is no staff shortage. What we were talking about earlier is we're supposed to have 10 people on a night shift on a Friday.
Yeah.
We have 11 scheduled, 2 book off sick. We have to call one person out to meet our collective agreement requirements of the minimum staffing. So, but with the discussion about where we are in comparison to last year, we're about on par for the last 5 years, actually. But it's not reflected wasn't reflected in the budget.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
sorry to belabor
Yeah.
this, but, so is it your position that the ask has been off for some time? If you're saying you're 100% over budget now and we're only in June?
I think I can't speak. I was involved in setting the budget, but I think it was a numbers game if we're $1 million every year for the last 5 years, our overtime shouldn't be at $200,000 would be my
That
suggestion.
this is not an anomaly. This,
No, so the report shows the last 5 years
Yeah.
and you can follow across that line.
Yeah.
And we're within $50,000 or $60,000 every year of that number. So
thank you.
Any further?
Okay. So a board account ledger, there's it's up approximately $11,000. Angela, we can speak to where that came from. There was a $10,000 deposit and some, a $270,000 deposit.
That's from Process Frank, so money that you received from operations that are released by the ports that goes into the ports auction. The opportunity to make a deposit. You know,
Last page will be the fiscal report, and I'll have Angela work our way through that. So this would be a report typically received from the city.
correct. So this is the financial statement for the end of April from the city. I have not done another projection. We will do the projections on a quarterly basis. But this is the financial statement I projected at April 30th. You can see that we're 66.67%. We have 66.67% of the budget remaining for the year. If you go to the very bottom, we have 65.26% of the budget left to spend this year. And that's about on par based on the projected deficit that I presented to the board last board meeting. There have been no changes, just to update the board. There have been no changes in the information that I used to do that projection. So we've had nothing confirmed. We've had no changes to that. So it still stands at this point in time. So we're basically on track with what I projected to the board last month.
Yeah, Angela, that's after 4 months. We've still got 65% left in the budget.
Yep.
That sounds pretty good to me. Anyway,
Yeah, please go through the chair.
I'm sorry.
Any other questions or comments? Nobody have your hand up?
Sorry, no, I don't.
Go ahead.
Okay, we'll move on to statistics. Just for a point of clarification, there seemed to be some confusion about a month ago. So we received year-end stats back from StatsCan. So our stats, our overall violence for 2023 into 2024, we're up 13.9%. We had assaults were up by 15.8%. Sexual assaults were up 23.5%. IPV cases were up 9.9%, and weapons occurrences were up 15%. Overall, our total crime rate was down 0.7%, and that's with a fairly drastic drop in property crime. So overall, our crime rate was down, but our violent crime is trending up, and obviously that's something we'll have to discuss. That's with homicide being down from 7 the previous year to 1, and attempt murders being down by 50%. So.
Questions, Ian, the leader.
Yes, going through all the statistics, I see one statistic that really stands out, and that's motor vehicle collisions. Last year, 119, this year, 192. And my question is a simple one. Has the removal of the stop signs and the changing of the taking lights out, has that increased the accidents that's taken place across the city?
Well, sir, I'll have to have our CRC drill down on that. I do know we looked at the rise of 93% for this time compared to 2024. So the year to date stats were well up, almost doubled. And their indication was it was a bad winter with a lot of accidents. So they're not changing the way they're doing statistical reporting. I can certainly, if you have if you like, I can look into if we're seeing more rise in accidents at some of those intersections in the downtown core that you're speaking of. They'll have to drill down into that, and I believe they have the ability to do that. I'll talk to CRC. I can't answer that today, but I mean, I know overall the accidents are way up. It seemed like we were getting serious accidents every week, right at the end of the winter there. So we asked about that, and they said it's an anomaly for a year that had a lot of accidents over the winter, and this is accumulative. So it may level out as we get closer to the end of the year. But for now, the last few months were drastically increasing the number of accidents in our city. So.
Well, Mr. Chair, I just note that the corner of Albert and Elgin Street, when they started fooling around and taking down the stop signs there was accidents there almost daily. I seen one van that was pushed right across the street into a guy's lawn, but that was happening regularly. I would, I don't know if we can recommend anything to anybody, but the sooner they get the stop flashing lights that are solar driven, they're fabulous to see. You can see them a mile away. But changing traffic, I don't know, they've got a sign up and I'm not so sure it gets read, unfortunately. Okay, I just
Thank
want
you.
to, if you can let me
Thank you.
know.
Any
Yes, sir. I'll look into it.
questions or comments? Like that? Thank you.
Okay, so there's over, I mean, it's very small sampling size from month by month. Obviously the accident was something that I looked in for you, but, we have one homicide so far this year, which would be down compared to this time last year. Well, if there's any questions about the statistics? Over. Okay, moving into our IPV, kind of the project we've been running. We've had 1,033 follow-up calls made since March 2024. 43 new calls for service were created and 9 individuals have been charged. So the charges are low and they've been fairly low. We had most of those kind of right at the beginning of the project. Indication to me is our officers are doing a good job of the initial call and are making sure that they're asking all the right questions. So I think our officers should be complimented just in the fact that they are making sure they spend the extra time speaking with the victims and making sure that anything that needs to be drawn out is being drawn out. So
Okay, I just a comment, I think I mentioned this before, but I think it's wonderful since we started this, 9 individuals were charged. We didn't have this initiative. If you accumulate all the numbers of charges, they would never have been found. So I commend all of the staff and people who are making this happen. It's certainly well done. Go ahead.
okay, we'll flip to the use of force reports. So we're 10 over from where we were this time last year for use of force incidents, 24 up from 14. Once again, that number varies. As an example, if our tactical team goes to a call and does a warrant and they point their firearm at somebody, they do 1 team report where 4 patrol officers go and they all point their gun at somebody. That's 4 reports. So you can see those reports vary depending on the types of calls we have during that month and which officers are doing the report. So probably more telling is kind of the CUW display, once again down, but next month it could be up again. It all kind of varies per call. Year to date for us will be +2 on the total number of use of force reports, up 23 from 21 this time last year. So. Public complaints, we had 1 public complaint come in, which we forwarded to LECA, and it was deemed not to be in the interest of the public to move forward with. This time last year, we had 24 public complaints. So far this time for 2025, we only had 12. So that's where we're looking. Once again, that can change in a month, but at this point, we seem to be the public might be down by half. So good news for us. Staffing and deployment, this is kind of a new report we're going to be doing. I think we'll be doing this moving forward, just kind of the changes we've had in staffing. For us, the advancement of rank, these officers would have all been moving from 3rd class to 2nd class. They've been here approximately 2 years. So there's a pay increase that comes with that. Angela, I'm not sure if I'm putting you on the spot here, but there's a pay increase that comes with each rank. So these folks are just moving through their normal progression. Usually takes 4 years to go from a recruit constable, 4th class to 1st class constable. Each of those comes with a pay increase. And we will keep the board updated on any promotions and rank structure changes as we move forward at these meetings.
Any questions so far? Okay, big brothers, big sisters.
So request for sponsorship, Big Brothers Big Sisters. Was it? I didn't realize I was speaking to this.
No, this is just for the
Okay.
board's information. They requested if we either put in a team or sponsor them. They've shown the sponsorship. It's quite high. Where did I put this? If you scroll through Lincoln for me, to put in a team, they want $100 of donations per team member. You can do 1,500, 2,500, and 4,000 just for the board's information and to speak to if they would like to sponsor the Big Sisters, Big Brothers Mega Bike for 2025.
So from a service perspective, we put out to our officers, if they like to put a team in, we will certainly support that, but we're not putting a team in from a police service perspective. So we will not be paying to have our members ride on the big bike, but we certainly support anybody on their off duty time. If they want to participate, we're happy to support.
Okay. Ian, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I'm really cautious about giving out You all know at the last meeting, it looked like we were gonna split the Alzheimer's from 500 to 250, but they got to the rescue and went back up to 500. What I see is every year there's going to be a multitude of what are you going to do next year when it's kids' cancer? What are you going to do the year after that when it? I'm very skeptical about it when I see that money there, and and I see where the police department needs some money for something. I'm more inclined to donate to the equipment or something that we need at the police services. Because there is, let's not kid ourselves, there's got to be at least 40, 50 brilliant, organizations that touch your heart and you want to give it to. And I think we had mentioned the last time that we had a discussion that we should maybe get together and decide how much money we're going to give out of that to charity each year. And are we going to rotate who it's going to? This year it's going to Alzheimer's, next year it's going to the, little brothers and little sisters, and next year it's going to do something rather than I just see this thing blossoming more and more and more as more and more and more people come and get successful and getting some money. That's my thought.
Any other comments? I guess the question is, do we donate?
What, is there a question?
Is there a question? I
mean,
don't know.
just
Is there a
for-
question? Is that just like,
It's-
it is a request, yeah, from the letter. So, comments or on whether we should or shouldn't? Anyone?
I don't think there's a team being put in, so I wouldn't be supporting.
Yeah, I'm content with what the chief's doing so you're supportive of your staff. That's good.
They want to participate, we're happy to support them and do that.
So am I. Agreed. Okay, good. Do we need we don't need a resolution. No.
I'm doing a resolution, Sean.
Okay,
If I could get a mover and a seconder, please.
okay, mover that we.
That the board denies the donation to the Big Brothers and Big Sisters.
We were supporting the chief, is how I heard it.
Okay, Nuala and Matt, straightforward.
Just before
Yeah,
that we've moved too far off that on the fiscal presentation.
Yeah.
We're doing the quarterly projections, but could we have the last quarterly projection with the monthly? That's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be helpful for me anyways.
So for the June meeting, I will have the merch.
That's right.
Okay.
any other on that topic? Just. Good, I don't know, we shouldn't want to see everything, yes. I just forgot, Lisa remind the public that the open portion of the meeting is video and audio recorded. And that's from Lisa, to remind me, I forgot about that, so thank you, Lisa, for reminding me that.
That's long ago. I didn't hear it.
Before. Okay.
13, whichever five.
Okay. It's the same way, police governance changes. Move by,
No,
No, we have to do number
13.
13.
oh, there's,
hiring of legal counsel.
okay. I thought we did that at the
We
beginning.
have to do a resolution.
Okay. Oh, yes, please. Yeah, please.
So we need a mover and a seconder. Resolve that the board agrees with the hiring of,
Yes,
Lacy,
yeah, Michael Lacy, I believe, for the purpose of advising the board on a personnel matter.
I shall move.
mover Ian and Noah seconder. All in favor? Approved. Okay, Marcy,
I have to go.
if you can ask.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I
I
just,
just started,
I'll just tell them the meeting's over.
moved by Mr. Mayor, thank you. Moved by Shoemaker, seconded by Rula Kenny, whereas the recent discovery of the budget deficit of Sault Ste. Marie has resulted in many questions concerning the governance of the service. And whereas the Sault Ste. Marie Police Services Board wishes to instill community confidence in its service to ensure a transparent and accountable police service. Now therefore be it resolved that the Sault Ste. Marie Police Board directs the following changes. I don't know should we continue to read them out loud? I think the long stuff here, so. Maybe you can speak to it, Mr. Mayor, since you moved it, and, yeah, please, yeah.
Essentially, it tries to capture some of the requests that came from council on the ongoing, reporting, with the quarterly financials. After it comes to our board, it would go to city council for their information as a quarterly update. Captures the, work that will be done on an MOU that I think administration has drafted and sent to the police service. Requests that a written report be provided. I think this is a good practice kind of generally going forward to make sure that the reports are written. Currently we get a verbal report that accompanies the statistics, which I think a written report is more helpful for those who aren't here but are interested in what the information is. And then I mean, the request that came from council to determine how the deficit came about and reporting back on the outcome of that investigation.
Okay. Ian, do you have any comments on this?
Well,
I know-
I'm looking at it and it looks more like a directive than and I don't really know if we need to have I don't know, an interpretation. We're very, very fortunate. We've got Tom here, and maybe he could give us a little bit of guidance. Do you have a copy of this by any chance?
Well, I do.
Oh,
Let me just bring it up again. I went in a different direction here.
that's a chief's copy. Some of it I think is standard, but then
No, do you have any comments? Well, sure, just.
Well, the question to me is,
I said part of it appears to be more of a directive than a request or. And I'm just wondering, do you see anything wrong with any of the questions that have been raised?
I think the way I read this is that the board is directing staff to communicate with police service staff to communicate with municipal staff on financial matters.
That's
And to bring information to the board, and so it's a directive to staff, which the board is entitled to do.
But it says that a written response be provided to the city clerk as soon as possible for inclusion in future city council agenda, summarizing how it is that the Sault Ste. Marie Police Services Board was not advised about the deficit in the 2024 approved budget until late in February 2025, as was requested by city council at its May 12th meeting.
Yes.
Yeah,
This is
That to me-
this is a directive that I'm asking that the board pass, a directive to staff to provide a written response to city council. If it passes, council doesn't have the authority to ask. Council doesn't have the authority to direct that we provide them this response, which is why it is our collective direction that I'm hoping to set out through this motion.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I was just a little confused. Is this an ongoing thing or just an explanation or a one-time because of the situation that's occurred?
Just a one time, as I see it,
Okay,
as I intended it when I drafted it.
yeah.
I hope
I hope
you're not in
not
the
anyway.
Right, no, and I don't mean it that way. I just meant if it's a requirement,
going forward.
going forward. Okay, that was my, sorry about that.
the one inquiry I would have is whether, will the board also be directing that the board receive a copy of the response to the clerk?
Certainly we should, yeah, that could be clarified in here. Perhaps it should be that a written response be provided to the board and subsequently to the city clerk. Lisa, did you capture that?
Interim chief, do you have any comments? Because staff will be working with you as well, so, yeah, I don't know, I don't wanna,
I mean,
only if you feel necessary to comment.
yeah, I guess my question is beyond what we've already provided. I mean, I think we created a document that showed where the money went. We've stood up in front of council. There's a 30 or 40 questions from council that we're working right through answering. I just don't, I guess I'm asking what more would be in this report or I'm just not sure exactly what you're looking for.
And I echo some of those comments as well, because if the expectation is that there's more, like, we just don't know where that end part comes in. With regard to how many times we explain the same thing without belaboring the situation. So we're prepared to give all the questions, we're prepared to give the explanation. But at some point, as the interim deputy says, like, how much more is the question?
Well,
And this gives us an obligation one time, so, okay, and that's why I asked the question before. If it's one time, then you know what, there's a response and that's it, kind of thing. We're quite good with that. But it just goes on and on if that's the case. Ian, you have a question?
Yeah, well, but prior to your presentation at city council, the board had already supplied all the answers to all the questions. And from what I understand, the council's never even read it, and they were firing off questions.
I don't know about that, Ian.
If they had read it,
Ian, we can't assume that, so please.
wow, if we're asking for all this additional information, that's fine, providing when they get it, that they're gonna study it and read it.
Any other comments?
Yeah.
No.
I think really the purpose, and I seconded it, I think the purpose really of the motion is not redundancy, but rather it was sort of twofold. And certainly the core thrust of it was improved communication and transparency.
Absolutely.
And if it's codified like this, then regardless of who sits in any of the financial seats going forward, the code of conduct will be clear. This is the expected code of conduct. With regard to that very narrow issue of when was the board told, I can just say from my lens, I was quite shocked to hear in February how markedly off course we were budget wise. So, and I think it was raised at city council. How is it that you received a report, I think, in the fall and everything looked fine, but come February, everything is very much off the rails. So I think part of the reason for that section included here was not to be redundant, but rather to say, yes, in fact, there was this gap of time and the board did learn at this time, because certainly that's when I learned.
And I think we're working on those problems too. You will get those answers very distinctly in the very near future. So, okay, I think we're good with what our understanding of this is. Tom, did you have anything to weigh in here with regard to whether they cross any lines or no?
No, I'm not aware, no, I think it's.
Or process I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, I mean, council's, entitled information on, relevant to the board's estimates or not meeting those estimates and the budgeting. So,
yeah.
I'll just, if I may, I find, Vice Chair, Mackenzie's comments about council not reading the information to be disrespectful and out of line. And I really think, frankly, Ian, that the information was provided to council and they did read it, and it raised more questions than answers. And that's why this is before us, as well as the multitude of questions they got last time. And so to suggest that they didn't read it is your opinion without basis, and is cause for concern that you would show such little respect for the role of council that you would rather criticize them on a made-up allegation than wish to respond to the increase that they made.
Thank you.
Mr. Schumacher, you're suggesting that they did read it, and the information that I got from a member of council was wrong. And if that's the case, then I retract what I say and I apologize.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. Any new business? I'm sorry, we're gonna deal with this.
So you'll have to school me on how this works because I put it on there as it was given to me. Do I need another? Does it need to be moved and seconded, or because you've done it in
No.
advance, it's good?
Yep.
Okay,
That's
just had to
how I
make sure.
see it.
Okay, so we're good then, John.
So we're
I
good?
made the amendment that was
Yeah,
asked for.
because, yeah, you got, City Hall does it a little different than we do it here, so that's fine. We're just gonna make sure we get the right thing done. New business?
We have to vote on this.
Okay, all in favor? Vote. Any new business? Seeing none, next meeting date, June 25th, 2025, adjournment time is 3:24. Mover, Act, seconder, Nula. Resolve that the meeting is now adjourned. Favor? Thank you, everyone.